Welcome everybody to this press conference for the 2013 Champions of the Earth. This is considered to be the highest United Nations award for the environment. My name is Nick Nuttall. I'm the Director of Communications for UNEP, and it's my pleasure to run this press conference. Firstly, before I do this, I really would like to acknowledge the corporate sponsorship that has made this award possible. And we're delighted to have with us Mr. Tan Ming Zhu, who is the CEO of the Guangdong Wealth Environmental Protection body. But what I'd first like to do is to introduce the Executive Director of UNEP, UN Under-Secretary General, Achim Steiner, who is here in the middle. And what I'd like to do, in a sense, is ask you, Mr. Steiner, whether you could actually, give us some remarks about this award, about the laureates that are here.
Distinguished laureates, dear Mr. Tan, also, this is our occasion to celebrate a partnership that I hope will inspire many others in the years to come. Dear guests and dear representatives of the media, this is the 8th Champions of the Earth Award that the United Nations is providing as both a recognition to leadership in different areas of our broader environmental and sustainable development community, but also to individuals, because in all our work, particularly in the United Nations, we often discuss many of the central issues about the planet, about humanity, in abstract terms, in statistical terms, in negotiating language. But at the end of the day, everything that happens out there depends on people. And the Champions of the Earth Awards were conceived as a way of recognizing individuals, both in front and behind them, obviously, are communities of professionals, communities who support them. But at the end of the day, leadership is something that we both desperately need in our world and that we'd like to honor with these Champions of the Earth Awards. As I say, it is the 8th cycle that the United Nations Environment Programme on behalf of the United Nations has organized this year. It's the second time we are doing this award here at the Natural History Museum in New York, a wonderful, wonderful location to do so. The 7 winners this year are in themselves, each one, a remarkable story, and you will hear more about that this evening. But collectively, they are also a story that is worth telling to the world, because in each of their domains, they represent courage, innovation, leadership, sometimes having to accept setbacks in order to make progress, sometimes having to take very lonely pathways in order to take an idea to the point where others recognize it, and then societies endorse it, embrace it, follow it. I begin with the Minister of Environment of Brazil, to my left, Isabella Teixeira. A lifelong career in the field of environment as a civil servant culminated, not cultivated, both cultivated and culminated, led to her in the year 2010 being appointed the Minister of Environment of Brazil. Brazil, as you know, is a major nation in global politics, in the global economy, and the environmental domain. It is a giant. It is a giant both because of the role it plays in our multilateral system, but it is also a giant because it holds one of the most precious forest ecosystems on the planet, or at least part of it, a significant part of it. In some ways, the story of Brazil, the Amazon, and the history of the environmental movement was for many years one of having to confront a phenomenon that we can describe as deforestation, or others would have said it is simply creating the space on which farmers can grow their foods, cattle can be reared, and economies can be made to work. Few realized, before science really began to tell us this more clearly, that not only is the Amazon a vital water pump for essentially the whole South American continent, it is a vast carbon and capture storage infrastructure. It is an extraordinary home to biodiversity, but what many people don't know, it also covers a very significant part of Brazil, and I'm sure Isabella will speak to that in a moment, because some people have an association that Brazil has a small national park called the Amazon, or maybe a large national park. you will hear in a minute how much of Brazil is in fact covered by the Amazon, and the journey of Brazil, the international community of the citizens, to try and address the phenomenon of deforestation, first as the classic frontier, as all countries have practiced it over time, cut down forests, begin to develop your economy, has gone through a phenomenal change. And Brazil today can truly stand up in the international community and claim that it has probably undertaken one of the most radical programs of reducing deforestation on the planet and in the history of humanity. Isabella Teixeira stands for not only a ministry but a government that over the last 8 years has managed to reduce deforestation by a range of 70, 80, 84%. The numbers will come from her in a moment. But that is a journey that involved many in Brazil, but it required a ministry and a minister willing to often confront many of the forces that are natural in our societies who may not have believed in this. She has also been at the forefront of trying to resolve some of the long-standing policy debates about the forest policy of the country. And she was also a vital player in trying to help bring the international community together at one of the largest UN summits ever in the history of the United Nations last year in Rio+20, where Brazil had the unenviable task of trying to unify a world that was preoccupied in many corners with itself and certainly was not always very well prepared to challenge each other into addressing the global issues. Isabella has been somebody who has worked in the political arena in Brazil with enormous energy, sometimes at great cost of both health and mental sanity, but has been a pioneer in helping Brazil articulate its own view of things such as forest policy, sustainable development, resource efficiency, and we're very proud to recognize her today as truly one of the champions of the earth. Our second winner, who unfortunately could not be here with us, but will be in New York next week, is Janusz Potocznik. He's the Commissioner for the Environment of the European Union, a part of the world that has for many years been pioneering environmental policies, sustainability approaches, and yet has in the last few years had to go through one of its most severe and unexpected financial and economic crises, as many of you know. To be the Commissioner for the Environment in the European Union that is worried about the collapse of its currency, with essentially public debt having led a number of nations literally to the brink of the collapse of public finance, is a brave act at any time. We have recognized Janusz Potocznik both for some of the breakthroughs that he and the European Union and the Commission have helped to bring about in this ever-growing territory that is influencing both the future of Europe, but also influencing global discourse. But we are also recognizing him for the courage of, even in the most difficult times, having been able to deploy science and wise public discourse to keep Europe on its path forward in terms of resource efficiency, the green economy, addressing issues such as food wastage, and also looking at the role that Europe can play in trying to make the Sustainable Development Agenda one that is not divisive on the global level, but in fact brings countries together. Janusz Potocznik is an extraordinary individual, a very humble man, but one who has shown immense persistence and courage in the way that he has tried to take this agenda with the support of many, but always with a great deal of dialogue and persuasion through the years that he has served as Commissioner. Let me next move to the category for inspiration and action. Carlo Petrini, the slow food movement, and today represented here by Richard, there you are, Richard, who is the president of the slow food movement here in the United States, or even North America, United States, sorry, Richard. Carlo Petrini is somebody who perhaps has particular resonance in a city such as New York, where Italian heritage and history are very strong. But as I asked Richard earlier on, I was fascinated at an idea that really emerged from a very Italian context at the time, has managed to capture the imagination of people all over the planet. The slow food movement is as much about pleasure as it is about conscious and responsible consumption. It is as much about how people view their ability to feed themselves, how this relates to the future of food security on our planet, how also the knowledge and the traditions of food from those of indigenous peoples' communities right through to the very commercial world of restaurants and our, let's say, sometimes hedonist tendencies to simply enjoy food for the sake of it, have become a movement that has both mobilized the grassroots, but also an enormous amount of supporters across the world. Richard will tell us a little bit more about it in a minute, but we wanted to recognize the slow food movement because also in our work in the United Nations Environment Programme, the issue of food loss and food wastage has become a very high preoccupation. Just a few days ago, the Food and Agriculture Organization published a report in which it stated that every year we lose food to the tune or to the value of $750 billion a year. 28% of all our agricultural land is essentially used to produce food that never reaches us humans for the purposes for which it was grown. And we looked not only at the social and food security impacts, but also the environmental impacts of such an extraordinary number that is wasted. So again, congratulations to Carlo Petrini and the Slow Food Movement for their wonderful inspirational work, both in practical terms, but also in, I would argue, very ethical terms. To his left sits Patti, as she is known, but her full name is Martha Isabel Ruiz Corzo. Patti is one of these people that you imagine represent all that is good about the world, and you will hear that in a moment when you hear her speak. She is in many ways somebody who has, for her whole life, worked from the grassroots upwards. But in a remarkable sort of way, she has combined what technocrats will sometimes call the economics of conservation of biodiversity and the use of land with the survival, the culture, the traditions, and the power of people to take responsibility. She has been at the forefront of making the Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve a unique protected area, not only in Mexico, but also in the way that she has introduced notions of payment for ecosystem services as basically providing an answer that in our very stressed world, biodiversity conservation is not only an environmentalist's luxury or preoccupation, it is in fact the foundation for livelihoods, for opportunities, and indeed for allowing conservation or ecology and economy to become mutually reinforcing. To me, she is a symbol who spoke about at least the ideals I associate with the green economy well before we had ever coined this term in the world. And Patti, it's a great honor to have you here with us. Our next winner that I want to recognize falls under the category of entrepreneurial vision. And we are very privileged to have Jack Dangermond with us. He and his wife, well over 30 years ago, I think it is now, Jack, there you are, began with an idea that information and data was something that would empower people to make informed decisions, take different decisions. He has been at the forefront of, with his company Esri, to bring global information systems, data, and the ability to use that information in the non-profit sector, in the commercial world, but above all for our more, let's say, informed and grounded environmental natural resource management literally across the planet. Not only as a company and as a technology vision, but also as an individual, he is one of these people who has managed to combine a passion and a vision with also a dedication to a company and a network that literally has helped thousands of NGOs, scientists, and organizations across the world to enter into that 21st century dream of better understanding what's happening on our planet. And I myself had the experience of being taken through his eyes and his vision at a meeting in Abu Dhabi that we had last year, where he gave me just a sense of what would be possible, not in 20 or 30 years' time, but actually next year or the year after, if only we got our act together, if I might put it very bluntly. And Jack, we look forward to hearing more about where some of the ideas that you have been nurturing and cultivating over the years will take us. But it is also the bridge to Google Earth and Brian McClendon, who is sitting to my right. We do believe in the United Nations that technology is an immensely empowering tool. And whether it is the kind of work that Jack represents here, or whether it is this almost endless opportunity to visit our planet that Google Earth has put literally at the fingertips of those who can have access to a computer or to the internet, has been a remarkable journey. Brian will tell us a little bit more in a moment, but I think we all realize how Google Earth has come to symbolize an age and an era in which information about our planet is not only a map any longer, it is something that can empower citizens, and literally citizens who may not have any other access to information, to do extraordinary things. It is also a story, and I had asked Brian before we came here about the history of Google Earth, and it was in fact born, let's say, before entry into the Google universe, but became a free service through its being integrated into the Google family. And I think it is a service that in many respects, and you will hear later in this evening also more examples, that we wanted to recognize because we believe that the innovative idea and the concept behind Google Earth is a part of the tool that we need in the 21st century to allow us to make this journey forward. Let me turn to Ram, Professor Ramanathan of the Scripps Institute. Here you have really the perfect embodiment of a scientist who has dedicated his life, often when nobody was interested, to be frank, to trying to uncover with the latest science and technology that is available to us phenomena that will shape the future of this planet. His work already on CFCs and greenhouse gases and the relationship to climate change were significant in enabling the world to begin to address a number of global environmental change phenomena. But it is, and here I want to mention Klaus Töpfer, my predecessor as executive director, who over 10 years ago, together with Ram, met and began to discuss the phenomenon of the atmospheric brown clouds, a phenomenon that Ram truly deserves recognition for having opened our eyes to through science and technology, to alert the world that in fact if you take the cocktail of pollutants that he can describe much better than I do in the atmospheric brown clouds, which initially were, let's say, visualized over Asia, but have since emerged as being a phenomenon that is not at all restricted to Asia, and that when we combine those with other short-lived climate pollutants, could in fact help us to slow down global warming. Imagine for a moment the significance of the findings of his research. The extraordinary thing about Ram is also that not only does he combine the highest form of science and scientific research, he often was a bit like a prophet in the desert when he was trying to put the basic infrastructure for measuring stations and trying to get the unmanned aircraft that could fly through the skies of Asia, South Asia, and East Asia to collect the data. And it was he, Klaus Töpfer, and a group of simply stubborn scientists, if I may put it that way, who enabled the world in less than 10 years to discover a major frontier for helping us to cope with global warming. And yet, he is also somebody who, from the atmosphere right down to an Indian village, has put a project, Project Surya, in place that is working with Indian communities in one village initially to try and test out how that knowledge with satellite technology and about what's happening in the atmosphere would relate to the livelihoods, the health of women and people in that village. Clean cooking, the pollution, the indoor pollution, which the World Health Organization estimates is responsible for roughly 6 million premature deaths per annum. It is this connection between the life of an Indian villager in Project Surya and the sheer global implications and planetary implications of his research that we wish to honor here this evening with the Champions of the Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, you have extraordinary lives, extraordinary people, and extraordinary accomplishments that we are honoring, and obviously we very much hope that you will join us also later on this evening to make this ceremony truly a special occasion. And to Mr. Tan, I simply want to say, you agreed to become a partner with us to make this kind of recognition possible. You are one of the entrepreneurs and one of the enterprises in China that has embraced that responsibility to be part of the solution. And for that, I also want to acknowledge your presence here this evening. I hope our journey will continue through many champions in the years to come. Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Right. Thank you, Executive Director. We would like to just hear from Mr. Tan for a brief statement about why he wanted to support these awards.
大家好，今天很高兴能够代表汇信公司，在参加今天的新闻发布会。首先要祝贺我们在座的各位地球卫士奖获得者，他们为全球的环保事业做出了突出的贡献。他们是真正的地球卫士。
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor for me and my colleague at Guangdong Wealth Environmental Protection Company to be here today. Firstly, congratulations to the distinguished champion of the Earth laureates. Thank you for your great contribution to the environmental protection. You are truly the champions.
我们中国广东汇信公司是中国目前水处理环保行业中的领军企业，也是中国最大的水处理药剂生产商。我们是很荣幸，也很乐意能够成为联合国环境署地球卫士奖战略合作伙伴，因为我们的理念跟联合国环境署的理念是一致的。同时，我们想借助这个平台，能够为全球的环保事业做出更多的贡献。
Guangdong Wealth is the largest manufacturer of industrial wastewater purifying and sedimentation agents in China. We are very happy and honored to be a strategic corporate partner of UNEP's Champion of the Earth. As we share the same mission as UNEP's Champion of the Earth, we sincerely hope our cooperation with UNEP will promote more organizations, companies, and individuals to take on more social responsibilities, to contribute to our global environmental protection efforts, and to help create a more earth-friendly environment through policy, science, technology, and innovation.
作为联合国环境署地球卫士奖的第一个中国战略合作伙伴，从这儿又说明中国政府和中国的企业日益关心中国和全球的环保事业，而且积极地投入到实际的行动中。
As the first Chinese company to sign on as a strategic corporate partner of Champions of the Earth, we do hope our action will demonstrate the ever-increasing commitment and efforts in protecting our environment by my country, including the Chinese government, companies, and entrepreneurs like us.
我们希望在以后的日子里，有更多的机会能够参与全球的环保工作，也希望能够带动和影响更多的人们来参与这个环保事业，共同来保护我们这个我们居住的地球。好，谢谢大家。
Together, let's take good care of our shared wealth, the Earth. Guangdong Wealth looks forward to working with more friends who share the same missions and philosophy to contribute to our environment. Thank you very much.
谢谢。
Thank you very much indeed. Now we're going to hear briefly from each of the laureates, and then we want to go to questions and hopefully answers from the media. And or we could do a different format this time. We could do it like answers from the media and questions from the laureates, but that would be maybe not how people would like to do it. Anyway, first I'm going to ask Professor Ramanathan. Ram, could you give us a brief statement on what this means and where do we go from here?
Thank you. First, I'm truly honored to be on the same podium as my fellow laureates with their impressive accomplishments. I also wanted to thank UNEP, with whom I've had a long partnership, about 10 to 15 years. Without their support, I would not be here. So with that, I wanted to really take this opportunity to introduce a new idea on the climate change problem. We all know climate change has become the major threat facing us, all the way from local level to regional and global level. We know about storms, we know about melting glaciers, we know about the entire ocean warming up. So fortunately, you know, what you probably have heard from the media's gloom and doom, what we as scientists, and I can also speak for Dr. Steiner, I'm sure, UNEP, we are truly excited. We still have a way to stop the problem, significantly slow down global warming. So we have to recognize we have two knobs. One is the carbon dioxide from fossil fuels, and then there are numerous other pollutants. Soot is one of them, and they contribute almost 40%, and we have to dial down both. That was the idea, and then UNEP started this Climate and Clean Air Coalition. In terms of going to my new idea, Nick, don't worry, it'll only take another 30 seconds. I'm not starting a new thesis here.
Okay.
I lived in villages in India, eating in their homes or living in the huts for 2 months early this year. My wife, who's here, she also joined me. What I learned in those 2 months is that there are really two different worlds or two different planets. One is inhabited by what I call the top 4 billion who have access to energy, fossil energy, and the problem there is consumption. The other is what I call the bottom 3 billion who have no access to any of the energy you and I know, fossil energy, or even if they can access it, they can't afford it. Much of the focus on climate change is reducing the carbon dioxide, decarbonizing the economy. We have to do that. But what we should not forget is in so doing, we need to give sustainable clean energy access to the bottom 3 billion. They are ideally placed to access solar energy and biomass, clean biomass. If we do that, we save about 4 million lives a year, women and children burning firewood just to meet their basic energy needs. We save tens of millions of tons of crops damaged every year from this air pollution. The beauty of this, in so doing, providing this energy access to the bottom 3 billion, I call it planet B3B, we also save climate change, disastrous climate change in the future. And the thing is that we have technologies, we have financial resources. I'll compare the problem of them. It requires not only top-down approach, but bottom-up approaches from entrepreneurs, impact investors, business leaders, and NGOs. We can together solve this problem. And what I wanted to say in terms of the cost, you shouldn't trust me, I'm not an economist, but I'm quoting others. For every 95 cents we pay to decarbonize the economy for the planet top 4B, that is top 4 billion, we just put 5 cents into this energy access problem. We have a sustainable planet for all 7 billion, just not the top 4 billion. Thank you.
Well, having also known Professor Ramanathan for a long time, when he comes up with ideas like this, you may go, but eventually, after 10 years, you're going, yeah, it was actually a damn good idea. Why didn't we do it sooner? Right, for Entrepreneurial Vision, I'd like to invite Brian McClendon, who is representing Google Earth here today, for his take on what we're doing this afternoon.
Okay. First, I would like to thank UNEP and also all of these amazing laureates and all the things that we're all working on to try to improve the world through various means. a bit of history about Google Earth. When we created it, we were trying to take this satellite imagery that existed in very locked off areas and bring it to the people. And one of the things that we discovered is that the first thing that people want to do is see a picture of their house. And they're very happy if they can see their house. But the next thing they do is they go places they haven't been. And one of the things that we got very excited about is they go to places that they couldn't go. They could go to Baghdad in 2003. They could go see Tehran, see Pyongyang, and see these areas where there was conflict, and realize that these people were very similar to ourselves. And so one of the goals, I think, of Google Earth is to try and make the world a smaller place by teaching people what people are like in the rest of the world. And we've extended that. And recently, actually, one of our projects is called Earth Engine, has been used to generate deforestation differences and detect deforestation changes in the Amazon basin. And so the Amazon project is now alerting people in Brazil every month at a much quicker pace because of this effort. So the idea that big data can make big changes and detect these changes and hopefully let people react to them, I think is part of what Google's been focused on for a long time. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And
Maybe I could
okay.
just to add also, the World Conservation Monitoring Center of UNEP, in fact, is a beneficiary of that partnership, because another database is the World Database on Protected Areas, which has benefited enormously from that partnership also. So there is another direct example of practical value.
And we have been partnering with UNEP for many years. The Atlas of our changing environment is actually one of the most popular layers in Google Earth, and it was created by UNEP. So thank you for that.
And you only have to, Google to see all the other amazing discoveries that are happening through Google Earth. I just looked today, and there seems like an endless list. You could go on and on. In many ways, probably you'll correct me here, Jack, when I introduce you. But in some ways, what Jack and his team have been doing with Esri, which I know you're going to explain, just links very much into what we see in Google Earth as well. So please explain how it all began and what it actually does, Jack.
Yes, well, I'd also like to acknowledge the team here and your great work. And I also accept this award on behalf of all of my colleagues. It means a lot to us because it is the realization of the power of geography and geographic analysis in the world of conservation and seeing the future. My own sense is that these next few years are important. I have no such grand idea like you have, Dr. Ramanathan, for solving it, but I do know that we, at this particular moment in our history, need to take the best science, geographic science, science of our world, with the best technology, models, analytics, visualization, with the best design talent that we have to design a better future. And my thought on this is that we don't have actually the people getting together to think about what the world's going to be like or design the world for 50 years out. And we each are doing our little stovepipes of work in our own geographies, but thinking about the planet as a whole, using our best science, design, and technology to come up with a better plan. This is not something that we are holding meetings about. I mean, we hold bureaucratic meetings talking about issues, but I'm talking about the design dimension, which is to design a future which would allow us to be sustainable. And that isn't, clearly we are not going to be sustainable at this point. My field is design. I came up as a landscape architect and city planner and became interested in GIS, or at that time, 45 years ago, computer mapping, as a framework to assist us in designing a better future. And I have spent the last 40 years promoting the notion of computational geography or computational geographic science as a framework for understanding our world. But behind that was the idea of creating a platform for designing a better world. So the design dimension, from my perspective in the future, is a big deal. How do we link science with the design community, the people who actually think through and create a better future? This is pretty much what I'm going to spend the rest of my life on, is something I like to call geodesign, linking the design creative community with the science community so that we leverage our best science and technology in the creative process of creating our future. And that's where I think we need to go with what we do.
Thank you, Jack. Right. I seem to have degenerated into first name terms with the laureates. I don't know why this has happened. But I'd now like to invite, for Inspiration Action, Martha from Mexico, whether you could address us on your thoughts about this award.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to this opportunity, all these wonderful colleagues. It's my pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to raise the voice for the planet. Let's think about the planet just not as a whole. For a second, we think with our hearts, not with our brains, with our hearts. And I'm sure everybody could recognize wonderful impressions, wonderful feelings for the biosphere that we live in. For me, the planet is Mother Earth. This chick is pure soil. I'm coming back to her. I may recognize in this web of life so much wisdom, so much love, that what we are doing to the planet really offends myself and every living being in nature. For me, today is the possibility for this call of action. Let's raise a wave of love for the planet. We have gone too far. I am a maker. I am a grassroots. I work with the local communities in Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve, that is the heart of Mexico. I live like a volcano, full of passion for the beautiness, for the wisdom of the web of life. And I'm trying to mobilize every possibility to release pressure to the planet, not just in my region. Wherever I can do something, I'm going to be there, trying to raise this wave of action. Everyone, since your own position in life, as a mother, as an executive, as someone that has the power to change things, it's just a time. It's not something that we may inherit to the younger generations. It's something up to us, the ones who live today. It's not fair what we are leaving as a legacy for future generations. Then I hope that we can raise a power wave of love. I'm not talking about that wisdom that you may buy with cents and dollars. I'm talking about an heritage that doesn't belong to us, that it's much more beyond our comprehension, our understanding. Then from Sierra Gorda, I will keep doing my best. Mobilizing local communities, teaching them to love the territory, developing a sense of belonging to somewhere. If you are so global, you are lost. You have to feel your root strongly and to understand where do you belong. I believe in local entrepreneurship. Yeah, one by one, like candles lighting together. I have hope. And I have also the power of many like me that are raising our voices for the planet. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing in the water. We shall not be moved. Long life for our society. The planet will be there forever. Thank you.
I
Right,
told
well,
Nick, I told
sorry, I
Nick
can-
when we were preparing for his ceremony that I know Patty and that he should not be surprised if she suddenly breaks out in song, because it's another way she speaks to all of us. Well done,
I'm a
Patty.
music teacher.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, well, that's pretty tricky for you, Richard, because I don't know if you are a singer, but Richard McCarthy, President of the Slow Food USA, representing Carlo Petrini of Italy.
Yes, I'm very sorry to disappoint you. I am not Carlo Petrini. I am Richard McCarthy, Executive Director for Slow Food USA. Carlo was very distressed that he would not be able to join us here this week in New York. Had he known he would have been able to sit next to you, I think he would have been especially distressed to learn that he wouldn't be here. But he did share with me how humbled and honored he was to receive this award. And so are the rest of us who have really rallied around Carlo Petrini's vision and verve, which began 25 years ago, to cultivate a global food community. We celebrate traditional knowledge, biodiversity, the dignity of labor, and the central role of food. We believe that food, the right to food, is the primary right of humanity. But with this right also comes the responsibility to support the ecology of local economies, to produce food that is good, that is clean, that is fair, and that is for all. With this remarkable distinction from the United Nations Environmental Program, we and the other 150,000 Slow Food members and Terra Madre food communities present in 150 nations will carry forward with our quest for joy and justice in food. We will work to board 10,000 products onto the Ark of Taste. This is our collection of endangered foods and cultural practices that are in danger of being extinct. But more than just a list, it's a call to action to map our natural assets and our cultural assets. To grow 10,000 gardens in Africa as centers for innovation, food preservation, and importantly, as emblems of resistance where land grabbing causes food insecurity. And to cultivate 10,000 food communities worldwide. Together, we can grow a new world within the shell of the old. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And he gets a special prize for being the only one that kept to 2 minutes. So you'll get a special award, Richard, even if you're just representing Carlo. No, but seriously, it's great to have you here. And last but not least, if I could call upon Her Excellency Isabella Teixeira, who is the Environment Minister of Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. Good evening. First of all, I'm not a music professor, even a singer, so I will disappoint you because I cannot sing. And for me, it's an honor, and I confess that I'm completely surprised when I was informed that I award the Champion of the World. I remember last year that we were together in Rio de Janeiro before Rio Plus 20 conference, and when you announced the new guys or the new names, and I remember that we had a Brazilian, Fábio Barbosa, And he told me, probably in the future you'll be able to achieve this glory. I don't know what's happened the last year, but probably you have an alchemist here and the other friends that put everything together. But for me, it's more than an honor. I'd like to share this award with the memory of Berta Becker. She's the most important Brazilian geographer that unfortunately died this year. And if you want to work in Amazon region, you need to learn with the memories, the history of Berta Becker. Second, I think that this is a award and recognition not only for me, but on behalf of all my team and all the Brazilians that work hard to protect the environment. In our country, as you mentioned, Steiner before, it is a huge country. And even to dialogue from local to global levels, consider the international, the national, the regional, the local negotiation, we need to dialogue with friends, with persons, with people. And the close eyes, face-to-face, sometimes it's really strategic to take decision. You need data, we need science. I invite you to be part of the climate change negotiations behind the scenes. You can see the other world, probably the third planet, okay? And, but it's really good that you can have the data, the information, and the science as base of our political process and our negotiations. Global Earth is our partner today in Forest Code, Brazilian Forest Code restorations. We are working together to identify how we restore around 30 million hectares in Brazil. And this technology is really important for us. And slow food is a key movement in Brazilian society today. And Isabel, Marta Isabel, but Isabel, you as a woman, together with me, we represent more than half of the planet, so I do believe that we can achieve good results in sustainability and in social inclusion if women will be on guide. I think so. And so I hope that in Brazil we have this experience today and we will succeed, be sure. Okay. So I'd like to thank you very much to say that today you have a new momentum in our country. As you know, we include around 40 million people from poverty eradication in the last 10 years. It makes a different scenario, a different context for our development. It's not easy to manage all these people in the consumer markets with all the demands, social ones, economic ones, and environmental ones. And I'm sure that the environmental policy in Brazil today goes beyond the natural resource only. We're working with the complexity of the problems that environmental sustainability means. This is not easy. We need to avoid polarized positions. We need to put everybody together and have the courage to build, to move forward on, consider the challenges not only for the global planet, but for the local realities. It's impossible to have a global environmental policy without knowing the local realities. It's something that everybody must learn. And in my country, it's important that as a Minister of Environment, I cannot manage the environment in Amazon region at the same way that I manage in Atlantic Forest or in Cerrado, in Brasilia Savannah, or in Pantanal. You have different social and economic environmental realities, and you need to play together with UNEP, consider this high diversity, and how we can build robust public policy to be all the people engaged and part of this. The challenge of the world is not only to access. We need to access, we need to use this efficiently, and we need the quality of the service. And this is the challenge that you have today when you're trying to put on board everybody to deal with sustainability. I'm sure that 2015, Agenda Beyond 2015 will be really a huge challenge for us. Consider the next week. I hope that we start the process, the formal political process, and be sure the debate, the international debate about sustainable development goals, patterns of consumption and production, and how we can make all the societies closer and closer. I think that this will be the new political way to have a fair, a just planet in all the societies, all the people can see each other. So I'd like to thank you very much, UNEP, for this award. I think I'm so proud of myself. I cannot believe this, honored and happy. And happy because I can share this not only with Brazilians, but also with my friends around the world. Potocnik, unfortunately, is not here, and I'm proud to share this award with him because he was a key political guy considered Nagoya Protocol. We had a partnership behind the scenes. Nobody knows this until this moment. And we achieved the agreement considered Nagoya Protocol and on Biodiversity Convention. So let's work more. And I hope that the future of the Champion of the Earth, you can have many new people working together with us, thinking that it's possible that you can have a just planet with environmental sustainability. This is not a dream, this is what we must. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister.